Hey guys, Kev here, and I have a couple of overviews to do for you. So this right here is the Spyderco Kapara, and this right here is the Spyderco Smock. These are both graciously loaned into me by Sinister Knife. Shout out to Duke. Thank you, dude. I really appreciate it. I've had these for, I think, a little over a week at this point. I've carried each one, I think, like one time. That's why I'm calling this an overview. It turns out I am not a big fan of these knives, and I'm not a big fan of Spyderco in general. Not because I want to be. I mean, at this point, it's kind of like, a running thing with me, but like, it's not on purpose. It's just their knives never seem to line up with me. It's very odd. But they're very unlefty friendly for acting like they're pretty lefty friendly, if you know what I mean. They give you the reversible clips, and sometimes they give you an ambi lock, like the ball bearing lock. But for the most part, they give you a compression lock that is super right hand dominant. Like, this sucks left-handed. And let's move this one to the side and talk about the Kapara. So you see here, it has the compression lock on the back. And as a lefty, it's really annoying. I mean, even if it didn't, this has this, back up. This has a CME, Compression Made Easy, from OCD for EDC, which I think is an ingenious design or invention. And basically, it's a piece of G10, micarta, whatever he makes it out of, that sits onto the compression lock. It's super lightweight, so it doesn't like push the lock in or anything. And it basically makes it a tab so that you can push it like this, and you can operate the lock without having to dig your nail in there and push on that thing like Spyderco makes you do. And it's super helpful as a lefty because you can just push down kind of like a button lock, as much like this. It's almost like a button lock, because you're just pushing down on the scale, and then it lets you operate the knife. But even though it's super helpful, because when it's without the CME, you're kind of like digging your nail in here, and you're trying to hold the grip, and you just drop the knife. Like, it sucks, right? I did it all the time. Back when I had a bunch of pair of threes, I would drop one all the time. I broke the tip on a few, dropping them in the bathroom. Like, you want to fidget with your knife while you're walking into the bathroom or whatever. And even with the CME, it's much better. I can grip it better, like grip, operate. I can do it way more comfortably, right? But even with it on there, it still is a little bit iffy. Like, if I want to do this, it's slipping. Oh, almost dropped it. Like, it just is not. I wouldn't feel comfortable like walking down the street and flicking my knife, which is what I like to do, right? I like to walk and flick. Or do whatever, be in the car, whatever, and I just wouldn't feel comfortable pushing it, And on the Kapara specifically, it feels a little bit odd, like the CME isn't pushing the lock all the way in, and I think it's because of the way it's contoured here, that when I'm pushing in, and then I'm hitting the scale. So, like, I need to back off and just hit, and see what I mean? It just makes it hard. So you got to kind of do this move, where you palm it, you let it rest in your fingers and press down and then shake down. It's just not fun. So, right-handed, though, this knife is really nice. Right there. I do wish that, wouldn't it be cool if they just did button locks instead of these compression locks? I feel like it would work better for everybody. But look, right-handed, this is much better. I'm sure plenty of guys love this knife, and I thought I would love it too. It's super ergonomic, feels great in the hand. You can choke up into this choil, get into this sort of poon spoon, and you're good to go. I mean, it's a great blade. This one's in 20 CV, I think. Yep, this one's in 20 CV. It's got G10 scales. I don't know if this is a exclusive from like DLT or something, but it's a really nice knife. I think as a user, as a EDC, I think this is a fantastic knife. I think the clip is fantastic. I love a wire clip. So I think it's a great knife. It's just not for me as a lefty. And honestly, the size, it's a little too big for me in general, I think. I think it's about 3.7 inches on the blade. Yeah, but it's definitely cool. So I don't have too much to say about it just because I didn't carry it a lot because I'm left-handed and it just wasn't that great left-handed. You can slow roll it out. You can flick it. You can middle finger flick it. You know, you got all the options with the Spidey hole. So that's the Kapara. One other thing I want to note is I thought this hardware was like from Tie Connector, which it very well may be. It's the same pivot you see on like the whole haptic and stuff like that. But apparently it comes stock on at least this version. So that's pretty cool. So next up we have the Smock, as Kyle would call it, the Spyderco Smock. And this is another one that is not great left-handed. And honestly, this one, what bugs me is the choil area right here. That's not a choil area. So, like, it makes me want to climb up here. But then look at that. It's just, like, ready to poke me in the finger. So you really need to stay back here or here. And I just don't want to do that. My finger wants to slide up here and get cut. I also, even though I love a good sheep's foot / Warney, this one just does nothing for me. I know it's weird because it is just a traditional sort of sheep's footy blade, has a hollow grind, which is very shallow, not shallow, low. Like the grind starts here and comes down. I mean, I don't know how thin it is behind the edge. It feels pretty good. Spyderco is pretty good about grinds. This one's an M4 right there. CPM N4, and it has this coating on it, which is pretty cool. It does have like grind lines, which is nice. I like that. It's a cool look to it. And then it has these really cool scales. I forget, he told me what they were called. I think it's the copper dark matter or some kind of camo carbon or something. It's really interesting stuff. I like it. You do have a flipper tab, and the D10 on it is, you know, you can easily fail it, but the way they design the flipper tab is very Vero-esque, so, you know, you can get enough leverage. Even with zero detent, you would get enough leverage to whip it out. There's no jimping on it or anything. Doesn't really need it, honestly. The flipper tab feels pretty good. You do have a hole, obviously, so you can reverse flick. That's the one positive or plus to this knife versus a lot of other button locks, is as a lefty, you either need to recess the button really nicely into a cutout like this, like Civivi does it here, because my finger would be pressing on that, and it would basically be, you know, deploying the knife when I go to flick it, therefore, you know, leaving basically no detent. But because it's cut in like that, I can rest on top of it without pressing it, and I'm able to flick it. Like a lot of the Kaiser button locks have that issue where I end up depressing it and having the knife just fall out like that before I get to flick it. This is the Conspirator from Civivi, and this is probably my favorite budgety button lock yet. Then, of course, you have the Protect Malibu, which is another good example. Has that recess, so when you rest on it, you know, which in this case, you're not going to flick this one, so it doesn't really matter, but it would be a similar situation there. What I don't like... Okay, so let me back up then. So I explained that part. Where the button is located is different. On the Smock, it's all the way down here because it's basically a compression lock with a button attached to it. So the compression lock is in the same location it would normally be, right? There's a liner in there. It might be hard to see with all the blacked out stuff, but there you go. You can see the liner in there, right? Let's zoom in. There you go. So it's just a traditional compression lock, or basically liner lock, which in this case is reversed for the compression lock, making it more complicated. And then when you push the button, which is basically screwed on, if we could take this apart, you would see there's a screw there. And that's basically just holding this button onto that lock bar. So, for example, you could take any liner lock. Let's take this right here. And it's the same thing. It's just a reverse liner lock. And then imagine if I cut a hole right here and then just attach a button to the liner lock, right? And then you could just push this button, and that would push that liner over and disengage the knife, right? That's essentially what's happening here. You push this, and it pushes the lock bar out of the way, and then it falls. So it's not really a button lock or a plunge lock, so to speak. It's just a compression lock. It's actually a left-handed compression lock, I believe. Let's see. Yeah, it's on the other side. It's a left-handed compression lock with a button on the front. It's very interesting if you think about it. But that means they couldn't put the button up here like a traditional button lock, right? Like a normal button lock, the button's up here because that's where the plunge is. It goes behind the blade, and that's where it locks into the blade, is on the tang there, sort of. In this case, it's that compression lock, so it's just pushing that bar over. So they had to put the button down here. Now, the downside of that to me is, I guess as a righty, it's not as bad. You just kind of do this, right? Where on a button lock, you would flick, push, flick, push, flick, push, flick, push. Here you flick, climb down, push. It's not much of a difference. But as a lefty, it is a big difference. So let me grab the Malibu again. I flip, and then at my index finger goes right here. Boom. Flick, boom, flick, boom, flick, boom, flick, boom. It's almost easier to use left-handed than right-handed. Now this, flip, and where am I going? Nothing. Oh, I got to re-grip all the way down here. So I got to flip it. And maybe I could teach myself to use this finger to press it, and I've tried that, but I can't press it hard enough to break the lock. So you have to flip and then use the pad of your finger to click. And it's just very awkward in my opinion. And then I almost just chop my finger off because it's like getting in the way. So it makes you want to use your index finger, right? So you flip, adjust. Flip, adjust. And it's just very, very awkward. And that's what bugs me. The reverse flick, though, is nice because you don't have that button up here to get in the way. You can put your finger anywhere and flick. But then you got to figure out how to disengage. So the plus side is really negated by the button. I just don't like it, to be honest. My finger is right on top of the button over here. I'm sure plenty of lefties have taught themselves to do this, but it's just awkward for me. You couple that with the blade shape and the choil, and it's just not for me. But you know what? A lot of people love this knife, so more for them. I'm sure I'm going to get scolded in the comments. You guys love this thing. It just ergonomically doesn't feel great in my hand or anything. It just feels really squared and blocky. And then they do have cutouts, but it's just not like, I don't know, it's just not for me. This grip is the most comfortable. If I'm gripped right here, this finger lands in here. It does feel pretty comfortable. I also don't like knives where there's a kind of choily cutout thing right there. So like, for example, I could go to cut something and I get caught in that, right? I get caught in the end of that choily thing. Instead of hitting edge, I hit choil. And that's annoying with cardboard or something like that. So what I do to negate that usually is climb up here and block it. But I can't really do that on this knife because I feel like it's going to take me out. You know what I mean? On most knives, I can just climb up. See, I got to figure out how to disengage it. Hold on. I'm trying to find an example of that. I don't know if I have a good example of it. Yeah, see, I don't keep knives like that. I know, I sound like a dick. I'm sorry. Yeah, I got nothing. Oh, you know what? Here's one. The Gungnir. Random example. I know Sinister loves this knife, so that works out. So what I do in this case is I climb up and I use it as a choil. So now I can't accidentally catch that choil. You know what I mean? If I'm back here, I can. But I climb up, get my grip, And now it's not going to happen because I'm guiding the knife there. And in this case, you're just so far away from the blade that you can't, it's so hard to guide the knife when you're this far away from it, you know? So I know these are all little stupid things. I guess I need to strop this guy. I haven't used it a lot, but maybe the factory edge just wasn't fantastic. Love the Gungnir, guys. Just an excellent, enormous knife. That's a word, by the way, enormous. So, that's the Smock. I know. You guys probably hate me. I apologize. You know what I just realized, too? I feel like a total dick right now. I carried these each a few times, but I did it mindlessly, and I didn't even realize that Sinister flipped these clips for me. I think he might be the first person ever to loan me a knife and think about that and flip the knife. Oh, wait, he's left-handed, right? Oh, wait, I'm pretty sure he's left-handed. Never mind. Never mind. I'm pretty sure he's left-handed, so it's just natural for... Oh, yeah, look. Idiot. Look, it's only on this side. Man, I don't even know how I didn't put that together right away, but that's funny. Sorry, Sinister. For a second there, I was like, he's the greatest guy ever. Never mind. He's not great at all. I'm joking. Sinister's the man, guys. Go give him a follow. He'll be linked below. Sorry this is not more detailed. I just don't... I don't know. I mean, him being left-handed then, I'm surprised that he likes this so much because I don't know. Maybe he has to be left-handed because of this. So, interesting. Interesting, Sinister. I want to know in the comments why you like the Kapara so much. Are you not a big fidgety guy? Or do you have a certain way you disengage it like this? You do this or whatever, and you're cool with that? It doesn't bug you at all? I just feel like I'm going to drop it, you know? So, I don't know. Interesting. But I really appreciate it because these are two knives I really did want to review. I wanted to get them in. I did have a Smock briefly that I got in a trade with White Storm Fat Carbon scales and everything, but I sold it like the same day. And it was before I had the channel, so I never got to do a review. And the Kapara I've never gotten my hands on. I've always kind of lusted after it, but not enough to like go buy one. So, very cool. Thank you, Sinister. Much appreciated. Thank you all for watching. If you have more detailed questions on these knives, or you want to know if you should buy one or not, if you're left-handed, if you have that kind of questions, I think Sinister is a good resource for that. Hit him up and ask those questions. He's going to have a lot more, in-depth information. He's going to have a lot more experience with these personally than me. Again, these are overviews, so I just want to put that out there. But I love you guys. I hope you have an absolutely fantastic day, and I will catch you later.